So I need to have I was thinking that I should have an intro eventually. What do you think?
There you go.
Intro should be? Should there be a song?
If you can sing, then yes. Although the intro and outro are something that you can record and then edit it in post-production.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily need it right now. We're live. There could be people listening. I have no idea.
But there's nobody yet.
There's nobody yet. So there's no one to introduce me to, but that's okay.
Well, we're gonna introduce you. So here's the thing about it. People don't even know what they're missing yet.
They don't.
But when they do, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, goodness gracious. So Brian, we are officially live.
Very good.
So who are you?
Well, my name is Brian D. Meeks, and sometimes I write under the pen name Arthur Byrne. I'm a full-time author who has numerous irons in the fire. I do some copywriting. I work with authors, a little bit of coaching, Amazon ads. There's lots of different things out there that are keeping me busy.
I love that I asked you, I'm like, who are you? And your answer is, I'm a really busy guy.
I am.
Because you're a really busy guy, you said right now copywriting is taking up the biggest portion of your time?
It is. Copywriting is something that I dipped my toes into in 2016, or it might have been 2015. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember the catalyst. I had a book that the book was written. It had gone through my 2 editors. It had been to the beta readers. We had fixed the mistakes they found. It was entered into Amazon. I had registered the ISBN number. Everything was done except for one box, the description. Dun, dun, dun. Authors hate writing descriptions more than anything. We'd rather write an additional 50,000 word novel than a 300 word description. There's something about it that is excruciatingly painful. And on this day, I did not want to write the description. That's all I had left. So what I did is I procrastinated, because I am a pro procrastinator. I said, you know what? It's late. I'll do it tomorrow. Amber, did I do it tomorrow?
Nope.
I did not. In fact, I put it off for 60 days. At that point, the little voice in my head, which is overwhelmingly positive and uplifting, said, are you kidding me? It took you 60 days and all you wrote was that dreck, and it really was dreck. You need to learn copywriting. And I have a friend, Sean Platt, who has a podcast, a self-publishing podcast with David Wright and Johnny B. Truant. He was a world-class copywriter prior to being an author, and he's a buddy. So I reached out to him and I said, this is what I just did. I feel shame. Put me on the right track, and he did. Well, a month later, I started rewriting my descriptions for my books. Now, I'm a former data analyst with Geico, where a 15-minute call could save you 15% on your auto insurance. And I had all my data. So I knew how many clicks I'd had over the previous 12 months. I knew what my conversion rate was, how many clicks it took me to get at an additional reader, and it was about 30. And so with the new descriptions, I now had a new conversion rate. It was only taking me 12 clicks to get a reader. Well, you don't need a PhD in mathematics to know that if you're paying per click, 12 is better than 30. So I went back and I looked at the historical data. If I had learned this skill set 12 months earlier, I would have made an additional $60,000 without spending another penny, because I mean, the money was spent. If those clicks that I paid for had converted at 1 in 12, it would have been $60,000. And so I am an optimist. My little voice didn't say, oh, woe is me. What an opportunity missed, $60,000. My little voice said, wow, good job, Meeks. You didn't wait 5 more years to learn copywriting. And that's my mindset, because I don't see any value in worrying about the 60,000, but the value in moving forward and having the better description copy rate. And now conversion rate, not copy rate. And now, because I've worked on copywriting for so many years, and that's been a big part of my focus the last couple of years, my conversion rates are 1 in 8 to 1 in 10. So I continue to improve and develop my own methodologies that work in the age of limited attention spans.
Oh, okay. So I'm about ready to hyperventilate because there's so many things that I want to ask you.
Well, ask away. We have
and this
lots
wise
of time.
person told me that most people don't listen to hear, they listen to reply. And so then I was like, okay, I'm trying to master both at the same time, but I really want to reply because I have questions.
Reply away.
So you mentioned two specific things. You mentioned descriptions, and you said that authors do not like to write their description. The description is not the book blurb. And I'm saying
it is.
It is. So the description is what's written on the back of the book. Well,
yes, but I mean, the back of the book implies print copies, and they don't exist. Nobody cares.
Okay,
this is something that new authors don't understand. They imagine their book, and I have copies of my books. I don't even own copies of all my books, the print copies. I have a few of them, but it just doesn't matter. People read on Kindles. Now, that being said, I mean, I have a book here. I'm reading the third book in this series, which I never finished, and so I own books, and sometimes I go back and read them or reread them. But the realities are that ebooks are zero raw material products. They don't cost anything, and I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. Do you have headphones? Because
I don't. Are you getting a reverberation?
Yeah, I'm getting my feedback loop to my voice, and so I hear myself, and it's making it harder to focus. That's okay. I will. Can you turn down the volume a little bit on your end from my voice? Not on the microphone, but on your speakers, so that it's not as loud coming out of your speakers.
Yes.
Because then your microphone won't pick it up, and I won't be thrown by the echo.
Yeah. Is this better?
Yes. Now that works.
Wait, I gotta make sure I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Okay. Wait. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Well, I can hear you, but the important thing is I cannot hear me. And that blew my concentration. What were we talking about? We were talking about the descriptions.
We were talking about drugs, sex, and rock and roll.
Ah, yes. There you go.
Oh, no. Actually, we were talking about copyright. So it's funny because I turned the volume down so that there's no reverberation, but I'm hard of hearing. So I need to turn you up just a tiny bit.
The point is, it is now good enough that I'm not hearing my voice coming back through your microphone.
I have it at 50%. Is that good?
That is good. And then your microphone is not actually pointed at your mouth. See how it's rotated? It's pointing to your right shoulder. No. You want it straight up and down. Okay, but rotate it the other direction. Rotate the base. There you go. Keep going. Now it's pointed at your mouth.
Oh.
Okay, there we go.
Look at this. I'm doing this.
Oh, you know what? No, it's not. You got to rotate it all the way around. It's pointed. Now it's a computer. Okay, let me.
How's that?
Well, okay, that is better because now I'm not hearing the feedback. So before it was pointed more at the computer or wherever the speakers are, and so it was going from the computer into the microphone back to me. So thank you for that. Thank you everyone for enduring that little bit of technical issue, but now we're back to good, and we were talking about copywriting and description, and the description and blurb are interchangeable, but the realities are it doesn't matter what you put on the back of the book because nobody's going to see the book. They're going to buy the ebook. And so when I write descriptions, I'm writing them for Amazon or Nook or Apple or wherever they're selling their book. And I tell people that when the description is done, you should use it on the back of your book, but nobody buys print books. I mean, that's not true. There's billions of dollars sold every year, but for indie authors, we reach readers for the most part, at least in fiction, through ebooks. Though with nonfiction, I do probably sell 40% of my nonfiction books are print. So it's a little different with nonfiction, but most budding authors write fiction.
Good sir. I am a budding author, except for I think I'm past the bud because I'm past the bud, but I'm not quite blossomed. I'm not blossomed because I don't have an ebook yet. See, there's the I told you I was going to try really hard not to it.
That's okay. You're doing better.
So, back to me. So sorry. The budding author part. As far as the book description, you have other authors that are hiring you to do this for them, correct?
Yeah, I write 3 to 5 of them a day.
And how much is that rate?
$150.
If I was to hire you to do that for me?
I charge $150 a description.
$150. Wonderful. Now, if I hire you to do a description for my book, yes, will it help me rank?
Well, yes, because the description matters in 2 regards. In one, your ranking is based on the number of readers. So if you're in, and I have to be clear on this because people listening don't understand. New authors watch their sales. Sales are one of 2 ways to get new readers. You can either sell a person a book, or if they're in Kindle Unlimited, which is the Netflix of books, you can also get a subscriber to Kindle Unlimited to download your book. We are paid based on how many pages of the book they read. So the point being is that most authors only watch their sales. But in this day and age, the most voracious readers are in Kindle Unlimited because they read 5 novels a week. So instead of buying books, they download them. The point being is, if you're going to look at your numbers, you need to look at both, because of your next 100 new readers, 75 of them will be Kindle Unlimited downloads, and only 25 of them are going to be sales. So if you only watch sales, which is the tinier portion of that group, your impression of how well your book is doing is going to be 25% of reality. If you calculate your description conversion rate, meaning how many paid clicks did you have, whether you're doing Facebook ads, Amazon ads, BookBub ads, wherever you're spending your dollars to drive them to your page, you need to include both unless you're wide. Now, if you're wide, your book is not in Kindle Unlimited, so your conversion rate, of course, is just sales, which also means I talk about 1 in 8 to 1 in 10. If you're wide, probably 1 in 20 to 1 in 25, because again, the people that read the most aren't buying books as much as they are downloading them. Now, that's not to say they don't occasionally buy a book, but the realities are you're competing against authors who both your books may be $4.99, but to the Kindle Unlimited subscriber, it's free. And so that's a tough thing to overcome.
Now, you're a big guy on analytics and data, and that's been one of my critiques so far. You already know that I've committed the ultimate crime, and I have a book that's available for print.
Yes.
I have a book that's available for print, and I actually wrote my very first blog on my website was, please don't buy my book on Amazon. I absolutely hate the analytics on Amazon, as far as, you can't, there's no connection with you and your audience or in your readers at all. You don't know who's interested in your book. You don't know who's put it in the shopping cart. You have no way to actually connect or even get, email addresses, etc. So I hate that about Amazon. And then it also takes Amazon 60 days to pay you anything.
Well, okay, so 60 days is a double-edged sword. On one side, it takes you 60 days. On the other side of the coin, the last 2 months of the year, let's say hypothetically that you, through October, have made $100,000 in profits on your book. Okay, holidays are coming up. What if you were to up your ad spend by, say, $20,000 a month, and you just spent like $40,000, blew it out, made tons of sales, improved your ranking? Well, you don't get paid for those months till the next fiscal year, but you write off the $40,000 on that fiscal year. So it is an opportunity to do some marketing, to use a little strategy. And of course, I mean, you're still going to have that tax liability the next year, but we always want to shift it to a further year because we don't know what expenses we'll have and what our end of the year profit will be. So it's not a terrible thing that it's 60 days. But on the other hand, if you sell direct, which you certainly can, there are venues where you can have your ebook and you can put up a Shopify store where there are plenty. I'm just familiar with Shopify. I'm not endorsing them over another. Just as an example, build a Shopify store. Have your ebooks there. The people click on it, and then there are ways to deliver an ebook to them, and that way you have their email address. Plus, your margin's greater because on Shopify, on a $4.99 book, you're going to make about $4.53 versus Amazon, where you're going to make $3.45, give or take. But there's always different sides to the coin. If you sell a book to Betty on your store, you make an extra $1. If you sell a book to Betty on Amazon, you improve your ranking and get exposure to the masses. So Amazon allows you to reach people that are outside your sphere of influence. I would say to authors who are beginning, you want to start on Amazon because you don't have a massive sphere of influence. When you're making, I have maybe a dozen author friends making $100,000 every single month.
Every month?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
So it is possible to make a living as an author.
Oh, I have 11,000 authors in my group, and I bet 10% of them are making a living as an author.
Thank God for that.
It is absolutely possible. It's an enormous amount of work, and the most successful ones tend to treat it like a job. They sit down and they write 4 or 5 hours a day. They're banging out 3,000, 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 words a day. Now, if you understand a novel's 50,000 words, at 2,000 words a day, they're producing a novel a month. By producing a novel a month, every time the new one comes out, so let's say it's book 3 in your series. Well, Amazon, that juices the algorithm. People start to get exposed to it. Maybe, the people who have bought your books 1 and 2 start to buy it. It goes up the ranking. Other people notice it. Well, they look and they say, oh, that sounds great. Boy, that description's awesome. I wonder if it was written by that incredibly good-looking Wilford Brimley guy, Brian Meeks. And they say, that looks fantastic, but I don't want to start on book 3. So they go buy book 1. And they get to book 3 eventually. But the point is, these authors, and most of them are romance authors. There's a few people that do urban fantasy, military sci-fi stuff. But and there's certainly, and those 12 are, the 1/10 of 1%. There aren't that many that make $1 million a year, but there certainly are. I know one indie author who made 20 million. And so it is certainly in a calendar year. And so it is certainly doable, but there are lots and lots of authors that make $10,000 a month. And that's a pretty good living. So
that is so rad.
Well, that's just how it is now. The authors back in 2010, when I was starting, it was only Kindle. It was hard to upload. There weren't resources out there. Now there are these groups, my groups, the 20 books to 50K groups. There are all these podcasts so that somebody who has that dream today can go out and find the resources such that their learning curve is much lower, much shorter than it was for those of us back in the early days of indie publishing, because they can go get answers, whereas we kind of had to figure it out for ourselves. So it is a fantastic time to pursue it. But again, understand that the ones doing it work at it every day. They get the books done. Nobody does crappy covers anymore. Everybody has world-class covers. Everybody hires an editor. It just is done professionally. And because of that, they build these massive email lists. They, have these fan bases that are loyal. Now, I should mention, I talk about these authors that produce a book a month, and that's a hard thing. There are certainly authors that don't write at that pace. And I know one romance author who produces a book every 9 months, which in the world of romance is glacial. But she compensates for the fact that she is just not able to produce any quicker than that by constantly being in contact with her readership. So romance readers are angry people. The authors they love, they will send hate mail at 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since your last novel. When's your next one coming out? I can't believe this. You bitch. And they're not being funny. They're really that upset. They just expect them to be able to crank them out like this. So it's, and those are the ones that love the author. I don't know what the ones who only are mildly interested in the author say, but the point being is, in a world where the fan base expects it every month, she makes 6 figures a year, only producing one novel every 90 days, or not 90 days, 9 months, because she sends out emails. She's a funny writer. She's constantly, oh, we're still 3 months out, but are you excited to see the new cover? I'll be showing it next week. And so she's constantly interacting and keeping them in the loop about when it comes next. So her fans understand. They don't get angry. And I mean, these are all things that the learning curve for this business is substantial. There's a lot to learn, but the amount that you have to learn compared to what's out there that looks like you have to learn it is small. This is another area where authors get overwhelmed. They join these groups, they listen to podcasts, they hear people like me throwing out all these things, a book a month, should I do Amazon ads, Facebook ads? Should I be on TikTok? All these things. You know what? Just pick one and do it really well for 6 months. Learn it inside and out, because this is the most common analogy is it's a marathon, not a sprint. Understand that the book you write today is going to make you money for the rest of your life. You don't need to stress out about, oh, it's been out 3 weeks and it's not profitable. You know what? It'll be profitable in a year or 3 years. I don't know. But it's going to be there forever. So there's a good deal of things that authors get stressed about, and most of them aren't necessarily productive. But
good sir.
Yes.
Can I talk about stress a little bit?
You may. Fire away.
So I'm a little stressed out right now. I probably need something to take the edge off. Maybe I should go to the gym. But the thing that's stressing me out specifically is that I understand that romance novels are there's 2 genres that are the biggest seller, and that's self-help books and romance novels, correct?
It might be romance mystery and then self-help.
Okay.
But I'm sure that self-help is number 1 in nonfiction.
So the thing that stresses me out is that I don't believe in romance. And so every time I sit down to write a romance novel for the sake of writing a romance novel, because women like to read that bullshit, I have a really hard time with it because
don't do it. Don't go into romance. You have to. If you're not reading 4 romance novels a week, you have no business being in that genre.
I can't do it because you asked me, in our brief introduction, would I ever write a different type of book? And my question would be, do I need to in order to be successful? Because
no, you can't write a different type of book. You need to write books in the genre that you read.
But what if my genre isn't easily marketable?
Everything's easily marketable. I mean, no, everything is marketable. Nothing is easily marketable.
Are you in the nonfiction writing group on Facebook? Is that where I met you? No. I'm in many groups. Everybody asks me to be in their group, and I always say yes. And so I don't know. And you know that memoirs are frowned upon.
Memoirs are awesome.
Really, because see, I'm getting a lot of feedback as far as nobody wants to read a memoir unless it's written by a celebrity. Nobody cares about
you're getting feedback from a type of people that I like to refer to as stupid. These are people that don't do math, data analytics, or know anything. They're just assuming that nobody reads a memoir unless it's from somebody famous. That's not true. I have a very good author friend who, for 5 years, she made her living writing her own memoir in 5 parts.
Yes, because that's kind of what I'm doing. Like,
well, that is absolutely brilliant, because she did it. Nobody had ever heard of her. She had a tragic childhood. She had kind of weak covers. They're good covers now, but when she started, they weren't. But she had a really good story. And I haven't read the first one because I know her well enough to know the horrible abuse she went through as a 12-year-old. I don't want the graphic details, but the point is, she suffered, she overcame, she went through life. She will write a 6th memoir in 3 or 4 years. But she did that. She made her living. She traveled the world off her memoir money, and then nothing lasts forever. It started to die out because you can't not write. And I mean, all my books are, all my fiction, I haven't advertised them in eons, and they're all dying a slow death because I'm lazy. But that's fine. The thing is, should I decide I want to throw myself back into the advertising of the books, I can turn the switch back on. And so they're there when I'm ready to deal with them. But the point is, she transitioned from that to ghostwriting other people's memoirs. And I don't know what she charges at present, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a memoir, but she writes 14 of them a year. And so she's cranking them out every 3-4 weeks. And she works 8-10-hour days. So if she's working on one, she'll have the next one in the queue. And if her brain needs a break, maybe she'll go conduct an interview with the author as it relates to the next book and get some of that prep work done. So those people are just wrong.
I love that. So this is pretty much the best day ever for me, because a lot of the feedback that I have been getting has been really negative. You mentioned book covers. Did you see that I did a little poll testing out my current book cover?
I don't remember. I'm in so many groups, and cover polls are pretty common, and I tend to like click my one that I like or whatever, or answer and then move on. And I bet I respond to.
Have you seen my book cover, good sir? Do you know what it looks like?
I don't know that I have.
I'm going to hold it up for you. Hold on a second, because it's also propping up my microphone. So I want you to judge this book by the cover and tell me your honest thoughts, okay?
I will judge the book by the cover. Okay.
It would be brutal.
Okay.
And it's okay. I can handle it.
Okay. Okay. It's How to Make $10 Million with a Rubber Chicken. There's no author name.
I know that. Well, that's intentional, but
that's a bad idea, because it looks like you're embarrassed.
Well, so most people don't put themselves on the cover of their own book because that's frowned upon. It seems a bit egotistic.
Well, you don't need. You can or you can't. But the point is, new authors, they always put their name in tiny letters at the bottom, like they're being modest. But all that screams is, this person hates their own writing and they're insecure, and nobody wants to read that. The fact that you don't have your name on the cover is bad. Oh, it's like you're not even willing to endorse your own book.
No, I literally. Okay, so that's your first thing, right? Can you pick it apart before I explain the cover? Because I really want you to get into it.
You shouldn't explain the cover, because the point is, I can see it. The thing is, when you hold it up there, the way we're conversing right now, that's about the size of a thumbnail on Amazon, which again, the only thing that matters is the ebook and the thumbnail. Well, you can't read the title when it's that small. So if you shrink that down to thumbnail size, you can't read the title. The fact that you've got the title centered in the middle of the cover with one picture above and one picture below, that's amateurish. That is just not how it's done. And so I hate to be brutal, but that's the reality of this book, is that you're focused on the print version. You should be focused on the ebook version. You need to hire a professional cover designer because it looks like you did it. And I mean, a photographer, the photographs are fine, but not two of them. I mean, that just doesn't work.
It's been a great talking piece, and you said that you're sorry to be brutal, but the brutal thing is that people said that I looked like a whore, that I looked like I was.
I think you're pretty. I think you're pretty. You're beautiful.
And why would you put yourself on the cover? You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. There was a method to my madness, and part of that is legit. First book was. I didn't have the budget so the feedback that most people have said is they would really love to see just a rubber chicken on a pile of money, something more cartoonish, animated stuff. So I'm going to leave the cover for the print book since it doesn't matter anyway. And, the timeline that I gave you is that I want to have the second book in the series written by October and release the ebook for the first book and the second book both in October.
That sounds like a good plan.
And you said that with your mathematical genius, if I actually
I know that I would have used the term genius for myself, but I do know a bit about math.
So with your genius, if I follow your instructions and I do what I'm supposed to do, if I'm a talented writer, which I am, I should be able to make a career of this.
The talent of the writing matters less than you think. It's important that it be a decent book. But my books, the fiction books, if you're looking at the reviews on Amazon, typically are between 4.1 and about 4.0 and about 4.3. Now it's a 5 scale. So that's better than, somebody that wins a Pulitzer, because Pulitzers obviously suck. It's amazing how many, go look at the rankings of the Goldfinch. It's like 3.7. Do you know how bad a book has to be to get a 3.7 rating? I look at this stuff every day, and it's rare to see one that is so poorly written that it gets a 3.7, but those are the type that the Pulitzer committee like. The point being is, unless you're trying to win a Pulitzer and you have a talent level that is low enough to actually do it, then you're probably going to be okay, because a decent writer, that's fine. People, you want good editing, you want to be grammatically correct, you want your punctuation, and you want your formatting good, but being a great writer isn't what's going to get you there. Are you managing your list? Are you marketing? Are you interacting with your readers? It's all the stuff that comes after the book that is the key element to success, because there are plenty of authors who are great that only sell 200 copies in their life.
I have to say, when I said talented, I meant I can tell a story, not that I'm the best writer ever, because
that's what matters. Also,
the literary snobs will come across and just tear me apart and be like, "Oh no!"
Literature, which ironically, most of what I read is quote literature. I just finished the African Queen, which is published in 1940. But the reality are, literature is the lowliest of the genres. It's a genre where all you need is to be condescending, politically correct, break all the rules so that your book just isn't readable. And then if you happen to accidentally write something that's entertaining, of course, the editor will remove that, because it's just a genre that is designed to be condescending and arrogant. And so literary is a derogatory term.
You know what? I have to tell you how simple I am. I didn't even know that literature was its own genre.
Well, people that write literature wouldn't call it a genre, but it is. It's a genre. It's a genre of poorly written dreck.
So I would describe.
But that being said, I love Vikram Seth, Rudyard Kipling. I read a lot of literature, but it's, even in a terrible genre, there are some people that are pretty good writers. I mean, The Bluest Eyes. I mean, that, my goodness, it won a Nobel Prize in literature, and it's just amazing. Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird.
That's a wonderful.
It's a wonderful book, and that's literature. Yeah. And so, I mean, there are some that are truly master works, but The Goldfinch, oh my God, just an abomination.
Did you read it?
I did not finish it.
Okay.
I couldn't stomach it. I don't know how far I made it, but wow, such atrocious writing.
I read very little nonfiction. Mm-hmm. Most of the books that I read are self-help or business related.
Well, that's where you need to write. And then also, if you're going to be doing memoir, you need to read a memoir a week.
Okay.
I know that may not be your thing, but the realities are, when I'm writing fantasy, I'm reading fantasy. When I'm writing mystery, I'm reading mystery, because it's you get ideas, not necessarily things that you would copy or plagiarize. It's, well, for instance, I don't think I have it here, but I'm reading my 19th Elmore Leonard novel.
Okay, and I'm listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've lost the host. She's become bored with my commentary and just decided to go take a nap.
The light went off again, so I was like, I'm just going to pop over there to Houston, and then I knocked over a bunch of things. I don't know why it keeps going off.
Anyway, the Elmore Leonard is an author who sadly passed away last year or maybe the year before, but over his career, I think he wrote 44 or 48 novels. The first one was Valdez is Coming, 1954, a Western, which has all the tropes the one expects in a Western and leads you right up to the end. And then it's different in the most brilliant of ways, staggeringly different. It is such a brilliant piece of writing that I can't even explain how great it was. And that was his first novel. He got better from that point forward.
So will you send me this person so that
Elmore Leonard, Elmore. Yeah, I can send you the name, but Elmore Leonard has written things that have become great movies, TV shows. The TV show Justified is based on Elmore Leonard novel, one of his characters. I think he wrote 2 novels, or at least I've read 2 of them. Then there's Get Shorty, which was a John Travolta movie.
Yeah.
He wrote the book Get Shorty.
Okay.
And his brilliance is the dialogue. The thing that Elmore Leonard, well, of the many things that Elmore Leonard does that makes his dialogue resonate, is that he will periodically have 2 characters talking to each other, but they're not listening to each other. So the wife says, "What do you think of the groceries I bought?" And the husband's like, "Where did I put those 9mm rounds?" And she's like, I know that you don't care for the whole wheat pasta, but I want you to try this brand. He goes, "Oh, they're in the car." And then she says something else. He goes, "That'll be fine for dinner." And they get back on the same track. So, I mean, that was a boring version, but I was reading one of his novels, and there was this husband and wife who were being chased by the drug dealers and some other group that wanted them dead. And they had just gotten away temporarily, were hiding out in this cabin they had found. And so they were having this conversation about their next move. She was talking about one thing and he was talking about another. Neither was listening. It only went on for a few lines, but it was so powerful. I had this aha moment. You don't have to write A, B, A, B, A, B. You can make the dialogue sound like the way people talk. And he does that throughout all of his books. Like I said, I'm on my 19th Elmore Leonard novel, so I'm not quite to halfway through his works, but every single one of them is a tour de force in how to write dialogue.
That sounds thrilling. So one of the things that I can say for me is that when I was writing my books, people back in the day, I used to write a blog, and people would say, your writing reminds me of this and this author or this author. You should read their book. But I didn't want to read their books because I didn't want to have their writing become my writing. I was worried about, I wanted to be able to tell my story authentically. And so what I like to read Stephen King, and I read Swan Song when I was writing my first book.
Mm-hmm.
I like to read descriptive sci-fi horror while I'm writing my memoir.
Well, there you go. I mean, that is absolutely fine, but there's value in seeing the way people tell different stories. Do you want to mimic their voice? No, absolutely not. But understanding that, oh, you know what? This is a memoir. It does not have to be chronological. You can do flashbacks. You can tell this. See, I mean, so the point is, you will pick up the way they tell the stories. I only can tell stories about the famous people I met because that's all anybody will care about. Oh, look, here's a story about the author and their puppy. So you may have these preconceived notions about what you can and cannot do. And then you read this New York Times #1 bestseller. Oh, wow, they did that thing I was thinking about doing. I guess it's okay. So there's just value in seeing the way other people approach things. Early on, when I wrote my novels, with each one, I had a goal, a literary device goal, if you will. For instance, there's one short story I wrote, which I was exploring the unreliable narrator, which is where you have the main protagonist who is telling the story, but they're not honest. They're not honest with themselves. They're not honest about what's happening. And so they're telling the story, but they're not a reliable narrator because they're putting their spin on it. And the power comes in the end of the story when you realize that they've been lying to you the whole time. I mean, Faulkner is great with that. He does stream of consciousness, but As I Lay Dying, where we're going back and forth between the heads of the different characters, and they're all unreliable narrators.
Oh, so I need to read Faulkner.
Well, if you don't read a lot of fiction, you may not be ready for Faulkner. Faulkner.
Why? Maybe I can. I read Twilight.
Well, then I guess I stand corrected. The thing about Faulkner that makes it challenging is it is stream of consciousness. That can be really hard if you've never read stream of consciousness because
I write stream of consciousness a lot.
Well, do you really? See, the thing about stream of consciousness is you can be going along and telling your story about the puppy, and then there's a line, why did I eat that ham salad? Anyway, the dog, and that's stream of consciousness.
Do that. And so I didn't know that I could do that. So my third book that it's almost done. I have a book that's almost done, but I can't publish it because it will change my life maybe in the negative.
Okay.
But it's stream of consciousness, and it jumps all over the place. So when I was trying to organize the content, do you see how I get excited and I start to?
I do. I see that.
Oh gosh. So when it came to trying to organize the content for the book and make it so people understand why I'm jumping around, I keep trying to chop it up into little. I don't know how to organize it. So I keep trying.
Well, I mean that's hard, and I don't know that I have the answer. But a great example. Did you watch the Netflix show The Witcher?
I did.
Okay. Did you notice how many people on Facebook or what have you talking about The Witcher said something like, I'm so confused. They didn't understand that it was converging timelines, that it was jumping around and changing perspective. Now, that's not really stream of consciousness, but the way The Witcher was done, where they didn't really give an indication that the timeline had changed because the characters looked the same. And so you had to be watching with incredible intensity to realize there were clues that, the start of this episode must take place earlier because of this stuff. But if you were just trying to casually watch it, it didn't make sense. And that's kind of the way Faulkner is. You have to read it with an incredible intensity And for most people, it isn't enjoyable to do that. I don't know if I have a copy of As I Lay Dying on the shelf. I might. But anyway, it is, what I would suggest is, see, now I just want to talk about Faulkner. Faulkner's awesome. Let me just, this is, we can do whatever we want. This is your show. And if you don't mind, I'm going to look up As I Lay Dying. And let's go to As I Lay Dying, William Faulkner. And let's see if there's the Kindle version. And let's go look inside. And let's see here. Okay. As I Lay Dying, William Faulkner. Jewel and I come up from the field, following the path in a single file. And file is misspelled. Okay, this is a traditionally published book, and the first error is on line 2. That's not really the point of this discussion, but Jewel and I come up from the field, following the path in single file. Although I am 15 feet ahead of him, anyone watching us from the courthouse can see Jewel's frayed and broken straw hat a full head above my own. The path runs straight as a plumb line, worn smooth by my feet and baked brick hard by July. Between the green rows of laid-by cotton to the cotton house in the center of the field, where it turns and circles the cotton house at 4 soft right angles and goes across the field again, worn so by feet in fading precision. The cotton house is of rough logs, from between which the chinking has long fallen. Square, with broken roof set at a single pitch, it leans in empty and shimmering dilapidation in the sunlight. A single broad window and 2 opposite walls giving unto the approach of the path. When we reach it, I turn and follow the path which circles the house. Jewel, 15 feet behind me, looking straight ahead, steps in a single stride through the window. Still staring straight ahead with his pale eyes like wood set into his wooden face, he crosses the floor in 4 strides with the rigid gravity of cigar store Indian dressed in patched overalls and endued with life form from the hips down, and steps in a single stride through the opposite window and onto the path again, just as I come around the corner. In single file and 5 feet apart, and Jewel now in front, we go up on the north path toward the foot of the bluff. I mean, that is a type of writing. The detail is almost oppressive. It doesn't stick with the story. I mean, she goes, this is what it's like. And so it's something that, again, is an acquired taste. And normally I would poo-poo something like that. But long before I became so arrogant about literature, I liked Faulkner.
Yeah. Long before you became arrogance.
Yeah, long before my arrogance.
I wonder what you would think of my writing with all your arrogance.
It's possible I would pan it severely. One never knows. But the staggering thing is, really, typo, first word of the second line. Come on.
That would drive me crazy. Let's talk about editing. So my first novel is low budget, but meaning I had zero money to put into it as far as getting out of the market. So I didn't hire an editor at any point. Mm-hmm. I didn't hire an editor, but I did send my manuscripts to a pool of people to read, and those kind of people messaged me back, etc. I put a little note in the beginning of the book that explains why I did not do an editor for this book. And I was like, most books are not profitable. Most authors statistically sell less than 250 copies of their novel. When this book is a profitable product, I will release another version. That being said, I've sent my novel to teachers, etc., and they're like, "You did a great job. There's a few comma mistakes. Nobody found any more misspelled words, so that was good." Because having a mistake like that for me, because I am not college educated. I ran away from home when I was young, barely finished grade school, didn't finish high school. To be able to write a book that is intelligent and correct is very important to me. So
sure. Well, it's never too late to hire an editor.
It's not. So that will definitely happen.
Yeah, I would say before you release the ebook version, have it properly edited. And understand this, my books, my fiction goes through 2 rounds of editing, and I still get people that email me with errors. Even really good editors, the $30, $80 an hour editors, they miss things. And you need to understand that is okay. They are human. Sometimes the word "the" spelled TEH slips through because we are so, I mean, this is why authors can't edit their own works, because we know what word it's supposed to be. So it's impossible for us to find stuff. But if you wrote 27 years old and you didn't have 27 -years -old, the author might not spot that, but the editor will. And so that's part of the deal. And it's never too late to send it off to somebody, spend $1,000, $1,500, depending on the length, get it properly edited, because it is really hard when you're starting out and you don't have many reviews. If you get read by somebody that has an English degree, 1 star. They will brutalize you because they're grammar Nazis or they're spelling Nazis or what have you, and it's not worth the risk when you maybe only have 7 reviews to all of a sudden get 1 star and see your ranking plummet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thankfully I have 25 5-star reviews at this point. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'm sending my book to teachers, in English teachers specifically. So that was the scariest part for me, was sending my book to her. And she wrote me one of the best reviews that I could possibly hope for. So I'm grateful for that.
Fantastic.
The feedback on the writing and, what I was able to do without spending the money, because I'm still working from a deficit. So I don't honestly know if I'm going to have the money to put into the books. I know I can get the books written by October, but I don't know what my budget's going to be, to be quite honest.
Well, part of the deficit is that you presumably bought a bunch of print copies.
Not terribly, no. I have 20 on hand, and those are just specifically.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
That's it. I did not spend a bunch of money. I don't have it. I don't.
So how much did you spend?
Well, the books were $3.95 a piece. So right now I have 20 of them.
But I mean, you didn't hire an editor.
No, I didn't hire an editor. I didn't spend any money to get this started.
I mean, you'll need to probably hire a cover designer, hire an editor. I mean, it can cost $1,500 to produce a book to do it well. But that's $1,500 investment that has no shot clock with regards to when it becomes profitable. It can be profitable in 3 days. It can be profitable in 3 years, but it doesn't matter. If you continue to write books, that book people will go back to because they want to find out where the story began. So it is, I know an author who, I haven't talked to him in years, but he wrote really short nonfiction, mostly solving a problem. His books were life hacks. He would come up with an idea for fixing some plumbing thing. He'd write 10,000 words on it. He was entertaining. People loved his books. And 10,000 words, he could produce those. He always had ideas. He could produce those a couple times a month. He would put them out there at $2.99. And his fan base, because he was funny, loved his writing. So they would just buy all of his books. It didn't matter if they didn't have a problem with time management. They wanted to read his take on time management. And so they would buy it. And he had all these life hacks. And again, I haven't talked to him about this stuff in 4 or 5 years. It was before I moved to Las Vegas. And he was doing $40,000 a month with these tiny books. I mean, it took him years to get there, but once he got there with his fan base, it's not an overnight thing. There are different ways up the mountain, as Craig Martell always says.
How do you figure out? So I'm still trying to figure out where my people are. because my writing, so you have an alter ego or a catfish. You
Sure.
have a pen name, and part of the reason why you have a pen name is because you have the snarky side of yourself, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And your pen name or your
Although the pen name, those books aren't that snarky. No, the pen name actually has a story. I wrote 2 books called Underwood Scotch and Rye, spelled W-R-Y, as opposed to rye, the drink. And then Underwood Scotch and Cry, C-R-Y. They're both satires. Sorry, just a second. Sorry, I'm doing a live podcast. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. Sorry, that was
your camera. Your camera got to focus a little bit.
And now I'm blurry. And so the phone call threw me off. And come on, camera. This is so upsetting. Why am I blurry? Let's
You're gonna be okay. There you are.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, so I wrote this satire, and the main protagonist, his name is Arthur Byrne, B-Y-R-N-E. Arthur, and that's a reference to, well, in 1956, the Rosenthal tournament, Arthur Byrne, spelled the same way, was the reigning U.S. Open champion. He was playing in the Rosenthal tournament a 12-year-old by the name of Bobby Fischer. In that game, which is called the Game of the Century, you can look it up on YouTube, Bobby Fischer traded his bishop for a queen. And everybody watching was like, oh, this kid, he's doing great, but, well, too bad. I mean, for those who don't play chess, a bishop is worth 3, a queen is worth 9. So it's a bad trade. What they didn't see is they didn't see 17 moves ahead. Bobby Fischer knew that trade would lead to mate in 17 moves, and there was nothing Byrne could do about it. And Byrne didn't see 17 moves ahead. And I have played through that game 20 times. It gives me chills. It is a staggering brilliancy that even for non-chess fans, and there's a lot of chess fans now because of Queen's Gambit, but it is worth going and finding on YouTube. I would go to Agamentor's site. He's a chess analyst. I'm sure he's got Fischer's Game of the Century, and watch it because it looks like a staggering blunder. And during the tournament, what was fantastic was they didn't make it all the way to the end of those 17 moves because they got close enough, like 8 or 9 moves out, when Byrne suddenly knew that it was over. And when he reached across to shake Bobby's hand, everybody thought Fischer was resigning, but it wasn't. It was Byrne that had resigned. And so when the went up and it said Fischer 1-0, the watcher, they didn't understand what had happened because it was so far above what mortals could even understand. It brilliant. Well, so it's a nod to that, and it's also a nod to Burns, B-U-R-N-S, who wrote Ode to a Field Mouse, the best laid plans of mice and men, aft gang agley, often go awry. So 2 of my favorite things that's my homage there, and that's why I chose that as the character name. Well, at the end of the book, Arthur, who was a struggling, well, not a struggling, he was a literary writer, but he had not had any success in several decades and had decided to go, his fallback plan was to teach the great young unwashed college students literature. And so I created this fictitious college, and he goes through these ordeals. And at the end of the book, he is finally written again. And the last scene is where him and his love interest are talking, and he has told the world that he has yet another book that will be released soon, but he's not told them the title. And the love interest simply says, well, you got to tell me the title. And of course, she's his girlfriend, and guys can't say no. So he does. And the title of the book is Killing Hemingway. And if you're reading the ebook version, it's got a link. Well, everyone is curious. And so they click on the link. And sure enough, there's the book on Amazon, Killing Hemingway, by Arthur Byrne. And so it was done because when I finished writing Underwood Scotch and Rye, I wanted to write Killing Hemingway. And Killing Hemingway is a story in 3 acts about a child genius. So it is not the Hemingway's a metaphor, but from a marketing standpoint, the number of people that go from Underwood Scotch and Rye to read this young adult killing Hemingway is staggering. They're just too curious. And so it was I mean, the numbers have borne out that it was sort of a clever marketing idea.
It's brilliant.
So that's the story of my alter ego.
Do you know how grateful I am to be talking to a brilliant person?
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kindness.
I've been reading in all of these books that the one of the paths to success is to make sure that you're in a room with people that are smarter than you. But I sit by myself all the time. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm in an empty room, and how do I get out? How do I get out and start meeting the right kind of people?
Well, doing these interviews is a great way to do it. Something I would like to mention that I want everyone to think about is that if you become an expert in one thing, I mean, to become an expert to where your top 1 percentile in one thing is doable. It takes some effort. You get there. To be in the top, 1/1,000,000th of a percent, that takes a lifetime of dedication. But getting to the top 1%, that with a little effort, you can do that. Dedication. But then if you can become an expert, top 1% in two things, there aren't many people in the world that will be that good at those two things. And so my background, the reason I'm a fair writer. Like I said, my books are 4.0 to 4.3. My nonfiction's 4.6 because I'm a little funny and snarky in those books. But in the fiction, I'm okay. I'm an okay writer. I'm not in the top 1% by any means. But my sales are in the top 1%. I mean, over the lifetime, I've sold $350,000 worth of fiction, and there aren't that many people that have done that. Well, the reason I could do that is because I was an analyst at Geico, and I learned from a guy who was an actuarial fellow. And the actuarial fellows, if you've never heard of them, actuaries are the math gods. And among the math gods, the ones who become fellows are the best of the best. And I learned from one of those. And so I was able to learn data analytics from a person who was world class. So that allows me to be better at it than almost everyone out there. During that tenure, I became incredibly competent in Excel. I would say I'm certainly in the top 1% there. And so I combined those two skill sets with what I wanted to do for my books. And that's how I figured out how to take books that are pretty good, not incredible, but pretty good, and sell a lot of them. And then from there, I had some social media knowledge. Well, that's how I built my 2 Facebook groups. 11,000 people, authors in those 2 groups, give or take. And so for people out there that think, oh, well, you have to be a genius. No, you don't. You have to find your passion, become better than the masses, better than most people at that thing, and then find a second thing. And if you can combine those two, well, you will be the best in the world at those 2 things, because there aren't that many people that combine them.
So I'm an award-winning professional photographer, and that's how I've made my living for 16 years. The problem for me is that my passion is not the photography itself, meaning I have no interest in learning about the technology. I don't care what latest camera's out. I don't,
okay.
I can't wait until I can get this lens or that. So for me, going to these photography trade shows, they're completely boring. I'm interested in marketing and that side of things. For me, the photography is about being able to capture what I see in my head with the light, and also connecting with the people and the storytelling.
Yeah, but like you just said, your interest lies in the photography marketing. Yeah. I said earlier on in the interview that my books right now just aren't selling because I'm not doing any marketing. I have, since the zombie apocalypse broke out, I'm kind of an upbeat person. I don't know if it was depression or what it was, but I just played chess and watched Netflix for a year and a half. My enthusiasm for working, for doing the copywriting and such just came about again about 3.5 weeks ago. That I had a dream. This is not like Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. I just had this dream that was so spectacularly vivid. And I typically have vivid dreams. Most of the time when I'm dreaming, I know that I'm in a dream and I enjoy myself there. It's just fantastic. Well, this particular dream, the dream starts out, I've just gone to bed, and I wake up in 1973, and it's in the dream, I've time traveled. So I get out of bed, I'm like, okay, I know this is a dream, but you know what? It's pretty realistic. I'm one of those people who, when they're watching movies and it says 1961 and then a 1964 and a half Mustang goes by, I'm annoyed by those inaccuracies. There's a Society for Creative Anachronisms is a whole thing, but I don't like those anachronisms. I digress. The point is, the first thing I did when I went outside in 1973 in the dream, or possibly I went back in time, we don't know yet, but I checked the cards out. And sure enough, yep, 1973, we're here, we're good to go. I'm walking around the neighborhood, just enjoying myself. It was a sunny day, enjoying the clothing that everybody's wearing. I noticed that I'm just wearing like t-shirt and sweats, but that's fine. Nobody seems to care. And my thought is, it's 1973. I don't know when I will get back to 2021, but what if it takes a couple months? Well, let's use that time to get a job, make some money, and I'm going to save every penny I can, because I know that what Berkshire Hathaway was, I think maybe $30, $40 a share in 73. It's $400,000 a share now. Who wouldn't want to buy Apple at 2? So that's the idea, is that I have, because of my nerdiness, been reading the Wall Street Journal, the Daily Diary of the American Dream, since I was 10 or 11 years old. I love the Wall Street Journal.
So do you invest then? Are you an investor?
So I am. But the point of the dream was, how great would it be to go back in time with a knowledge of the real big winners in stocks, mutual funds, and all that over the last 40, 50 years, and be able to invest. Well, then I woke up, and it was such a vivid dream. I laid there in my bed. I was like, did I just come back from traveling to the past, or was it a dream? And of course it was a dream. I did not time travel.
Wait, why of course? Why?
Well,
of course?
maybe it was time traveling, but as I lay there for 5 minutes, I tried to go back to 73 and just redo it. I couldn't get back to 73. So maybe I did time travel, but the point was, as I lay there, coming to the grips that even if it was, I don't know how I did it, I said to myself that was a dream that had to have some meaning. There was a point to that dream. And my takeaway was, there are $2 apples right now. We don't know which ones they are for 20 years, but you have some pretty good theories about things, and you should be working as hard as you can and investing in those companies that you believe are going to be the $2 apples now, because you've been right so many times. There was a point where because I invest my parents' money, and we were talking about this annuity my mother had that it was making 0.5% or something ridiculous. And I said, you need to cash out that annuity. She's like, I know. And I said, this is what I think we should do. I think we should cash out the annuity, take the money, put most of it into Berkshire Hathaway, and 10,000 into Bitcoin. What's Bitcoin? So we had an 2-hour-long conversation about Bitcoin, and I just couldn't explain it to my 77-year-old mother in a way that didn't scare her to death.
Yeah.
And I decided, it's not worth pushing her. But on that day, Bitcoin, and I know Bitcoin has been down the last month, but on that day that we were talking, Bitcoin traded at $311. I mean, it's been as high as 64,000. It's probably 37,000 now.
Are you hodling?
Am I what?
Hodling.
Hodling.
You don't know what hodling is, so you don't follow crypto and investing daily, do you?
Well, I do. I mean, I follow.
You know the bouncing dead cat, the bouncing dead cat.
I don't know this. I mean, I know that right now, if I like
hodling
Dogecoin is at 40.3 cents.
Hodling, it's hold on for dear life. I do believe is what it's short for. It's HODL.
And that's because for the last month they've all been tanking, and so people are terrified.
Crypto is known for its high highs and its low lows and how volatile.
Big volatility, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and so HODL is specific to that investment group. It's and the bouncing dead cat. I recently learned basically is where the market comes down and it crashes, and you're hoping that it's gonna start to go back up, but it just bounces and stays dead, and then you enter the bear market.
Yeah, I mean that is entirely. I've not heard either of those phrases, but they make sense. I love crypto. I have my own opinions on crypto. I'm not going to get into those now, but I do. I'm working really hard now, every day, building the copywriting business, because that's what I'm passionate at this moment. And as you mentioned earlier in the show, I charge $150 for a description, and that's something that, because I've written for paid clients, I've written over, I'm coming up close to 600 or so. And I'm good at it. It's what I do every day. And when you do it every day, it becomes easier. And so I am really pushing that business. I wrote one before the show, sent it off to the author. Hopefully he'll have seen it by the time we're done, and then I can invoice it. But every time I get $1,000, I'm moving it into my account and trading crypto. And so I'm pouring money in as quickly as I can and intend to do that. And I don't care when it goes down, because the plan is to do this for years and years. And I don't believe that 3 years from now, there may be some cryptos that disappear, which you'd lose everything. It's incredibly volatile, and I don't recommend anyone trade crypto, because the chances are spectacular that you'll lose everything. But I do know my risk tolerance level, and I know that I am willing to put all these dollars at risk because I think the potential is great. So,
are you investing in anything other than Bitcoin?
Yeah, I'm investing in some tokens. I'm not investing in any of the what are the not ATF? What are the art? What's the art?
Well, you're still in the crypto market. I meant are you investing in real estate? Are you doing a Roth IRA, traditional investing?
I currently do not have any lumber companies in my portfolio, but I follow lumber. I follow nanotech. I follow some rare earth minerals mining companies. Those are mostly in China. I've never bought any Chinese companies, but I'm also really interested in desalination. And so I have a number of things that I follow and track, and I'm not necessarily invested in all of them right now, but I think water is going to be a huge thing in our lifetime.
What is desalination?
Desalination is when you run salt water through a desalination process to turn it into drinking water, because we can't drink salt water. And what it does is it pulls out the salt, it pulls out the mercury, it pulls out all the impurities, and so you get this pile of incredibly toxic stuff that is in all the ocean water, but it's now not in the water, and you have drinking water. And so I know that there's places in the world, South Africa is the Cape Town, their water is fed by this single
and they're running out of water.
And they're constantly running out of the water. They're on the cusp of just a humanitarian crisis. I don't know everything they're doing to solve it, but I do think that desalination is probably one of the things that could work towards that end, because they're on the ocean. So you just need to put tubes in. LA, there's lots of areas in the world that consume enormous amounts of water, and I think that's going to be a big business. And so I watch some companies that make equipment for desalination, that are in the desalination business. I have many, many interests. I'm also interested in grid level electricity storage. So, Tesla makes batteries for the home, but what if you needed a battery that was the size of a shipping container? That's a whole different grid level battery storage is a new industry that I'm interested in.
I love that. Oh boy, howdy. You realize I want to talk to you about so many things. I'm like, okay, I want to talk to you about investing, and I want to go back to the book side, the marketing side. Are you making most of your money right now from your book sales? Because you mentioned you're not doing very much marketing for that. Or
it's almost all copywriting. I can write 3 to 5 descriptions a day, and you don't need to be a math genius to know that that's, $450 to $750 a day, and that's 7 days a week.
How are people finding you for that?
Word of mouth. I don't do any marketing for that. That's not 100% true. I have my 2 author groups. There's 11,000 people in there. Every 2 months or so, I will put up a new post, usually with a picture of a hedgehog or a guinea pig or something adorable, talking about my service, because since I'm constantly getting new people into the group, they may not have seen the old post. And so that's where I drive some of my business for new clients. I also have some podcasts like this that I've done for podcasters who get really good traffic, and I get 1 or 2 new clients a week just from people that say, hey, I saw that podcast. And the one in particular, I was on that show 9 months ago, and it's still yielding new clients. I just wrote one 2 days ago for somebody that had found me from that podcast. And then I have a gentleman who does ads for author. He runs their ads for them, and he has a huge client base. And we've just started having me rewrite the descriptions for his clients because it improves their conversion rate, which then makes it easier for him to run ads on their behalf profitably. And so that's something that we've just started working with his clients 2 weeks ago. And one of his clients is a publicist who does publicity things for authors. And so I'm helping his clients as well. So I've got all these sources now that are feeding me so that I don't need to run Facebook ads or something to get the clientele enough to keep me busy. I mean, I only have 2 descriptions to write today, which is unusual, but tomorrow I will maybe put up another post or something and then keep that rolling. And
so that's the thing that I wonder about, though, because one of the things I can say as far as me networking and starting to get to know other authors is that most of the authors that I come across are making their main income by doing things that are not actually selling the books that they've written. For example, we've written 19 novels, and you have 6 nonfiction books.
Yeah, but I mean,
if you're getting the proper traction on the marketing end, you could be.
Yeah, my best year at fiction was 107,000.
Okay.
So I could do that instead.
But it's not where your passion's at.
It's not. I mean, in 2019, I wrote 5 novels in 5 months. I've only released 4 of them. I ended up writing that year 6 novels and 2/3 of the 7th book in the series. I've had 2 finished novels done, edited through the beta teams for 20 months now. I mean, they're ready to go. I could literally launch them tonight. It would take me 2 hours, and I still haven't done it. I just don't care. And so I'm not recommending apathy as a strategy to anyone. I'm just, right now, my passion is the copywriting business. That's what I want to do. And if I'm too tired to work on that, I'll watch Netflix or play chess and recover or go to bed so that I can continue on that. There's a place called Upworks, and Upworks is something that I am going to start. Well, I've already started a little branching out and doing copywriting that is unrelated to descriptions. There's a wonderful site for authors called BookBrush, and it's a place where you can go to create images for your marketing. If you're running Facebook ads, you need an image, and BookBrush makes it incredibly easy. I do a lot of copywriting work for them. I mention that because I'm biased, but I use their tool. If you go to my groups and you see my post where I'm advertising my copywriting business, all of those images I made through BookBrush. So I also have written a lot of the copy that's on their website. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday who has written this amazing book that is, I mean, it's best compared to Harry Potter in that stylistically and the market that it's going for and the adventure and all. Harry Potter with not as much magic, but certainly that level of adventure. And he's got a whole team working on that book. They've received 20, 30 awards. I think he's up to 33 awards, is doing brilliantly. And our conversation yesterday, aside from me rewriting his description, which I did yesterday morning, is that we're going to work on his copy for his email autoresponders. And so it's just where my passions lie. And the authors that I mentioned before that are making $10,000 a month or whatever, my best single month is $17,000. And that's what I was doing. 10 hours a day. I was either working on my books, I was spending 3 or 4 hours a day doing analytics, I was running ads, I was writing the next book. And that was fun and it was wonderful. And I enjoyed every minute of it. But right now I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And so you can't force it. You can't write romance if you don't read romance. You can't write books if your interest has changed. And really the fiction dropped off for me when I turned towards the nonfiction. When I started writing the Mastering Amazon Ads and then later Mastering Amazon Descriptions, started speaking at conferences. I love public speaking. My passion for fiction dropped off. I've written those books I talked about in 2019 since then, but I would rather speak and teach than do. But the difference between me and some gurus out there that teaches, I've done it. I've already done it. I've sold, I've made a living just from fiction sales, but now I'm moving on to other stuff that interests me.
So do you think that I'm going to need to choose between my photography business and my book business initially in order to make it happen?
No, I don't think you're too new at the book business. You don't have 10 hours a day worth of book business work you can do.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, let me ask, how many words did you write yesterday?
I've been mostly working on my photography business and then also marketing.
Okay. Well, the thing is, I would say I would give yourself an hour a day to write. That's it. Just do the hour a day because you want to get into a habit where you're writing every day. When I wrote 5 novels in 5 months, that was the first thing I did. I would wake up and it was get the coffee and write. Sometimes my goal was 2,500 words. Sometimes I do 3,500. Sometimes I get 1,900. I wouldn't quite make the goal. I didn't always achieve my goal, but I did average right around that for the most part. And I would wake up and I would get my coffee and it was time to write. Sometimes I would get the 2,500 words done in 2 hours. Sometimes I'd sit at my computer for 6. And I wasn't going to get up until I figured it out because some days are hard to write. But the key is I wrote every day. And that's what authors that want to produce a lot of books, if they can get in that habit, it makes it much easier. And back when I was writing, before I started the nonfiction, I wrote every day. and my blog that isn't really up anymore, and I'm not going to mention the name, but I wrote a blog post every day from January 2nd, 2010 through March 25th, 2016. I did not miss a post during that time. And one of those, there was a span of 3 days where I had the flu. I was so miserable. I couldn't sit up, but I was not about to let my streak go. And so if I decide I want to get back and write fiction, I know I can because I've done it. And I do like it. It's just, I like cheesecake. I also like blueberry muffins. Right now, I kind of want the muffins.
I gotcha. So I asked you if I have time for both. Yes. I personally don't feel like I have time for both because my writing, when I am in the flow, it really I told you I have a book that's pretty much written, but I'm afraid to publish it. That's a part of this journey. I need to hold on to it because I'm writing based on my real life. And this one is very close to what's happening in this particular timeline. And one of the things that I've realized about choosing to share what's really happening in my life in an uncensored way is that it actually changes the things that are happening in my life, because people in my real world read my writing and they have opinions about the things that I've said. And it usually causes some sort of drama or chaos in my world. And so I'm really afraid of that. So I'm trying to hold off on putting that out there. But what I can say is that the thing that worked best for me was getting up at 3:00 in the morning. First thing I do is I literally am writing from 3:00 in the morning until usually the sun's coming up around 10. And then it switches focus into, okay, well, now I have to market. I have to be on Instagram connecting with people, commenting, reading other authors' books, meeting people like you. That takes half the day as well, just on the marketing.
But so how many words do you write in 7 hours of writing?
It really depends. There's days where, I'm putting out, 6 pages in Word, and there's days where, in that 6 hours, I have it 1 page in front of me. It really depends on the flow and where I'm at. Sometimes it depends on how much pot I smoked.
Typically, one thing that I have suggested to authors, and I've received feedback that this has helped, is set up an Excel file and record the word count. Pages isn't really great because if on one page it's one font and then on another project it's a different font, but word count is word count. And so if you track word count every day, and that's what I did when my goal was 2,500, I would track the words. And sometimes I would get to 2,500 so quickly and the idea wasn't done that I just kept going because I was in that zone. And other days it was hard. I would get to 1,900 and that was the end of the chapter. I was like, oh boy, that took 6 hours. That was brutal. I just didn't feel like I was in the zone. I'm done. I'm going to take a walk. That's fine. It'll be there tomorrow. And it's that sort of thing. But if you're writing 7 hours a day, I mean, you should be 3,000-4,000 words. I mean, that should be your goal. I never spent 7 hours, but the 3,000-4,000 words a day. At 4,000 words, you've got a book every 15 days.
Yeah, like I said, by doing that schedule, I was able to write that book. It's done. Its timing isn't right for it.
Well,
so
then set it aside. That's fine. You can write your next book. And you said you prefer nonfiction self-help.
Yeah.
Well, every time you have an idea for a self-help book, write it down. And then have one of them that you're working on. You can do your memoirs, you can do your self-help. Those are reasonable things to do, simultaneously.
So
I've had many times where I've had 3 or 4 books in the works at one time, and there would be the main book, the one that I wanted to work on, but if on that day it just wasn't happening, I would go to my second favorite book and work on that one, because sometimes you need a palate cleanser. And I do that with the description writing. There are times where I will read a person's book description and a half dozen of the reviews, and I'll get the description done in 15 or 20 minutes because it just jumps off the page. These are the hooks. This is what people loved. They're not using the things that people loved in their description. Boom, let's change this hook. Let's put this little bit about it. The goal I always tell clients or anyone who will listen is with a book description for fiction, try to hint at what might happen. Don't tell them what will happen. Now with nonfiction, maybe you want to leave a little mystery, but you also want to talk about what they're going to get out of this book. What you don't want to do is give them a list of 20 bullet items because that is more. What are the 3 or 4 most important things that they're going to take from this book that will reach the most readers? You talk about those, and it doesn't matter that there's 15 other great things. Authors try to push too much into it, but if you end up with a description that is, you can't see it, but this long, people won't read it. They will, if they get bored partway through the description, they're not going to buy the book. They're going to leave.
So I'm going to hire you to write the description for my first book and then my second book, and then also the description for the series itself.
Okay.
One of the things, so self-help books typically, like using Jen Sicero's books and the way that she's done her marketing. Have you read any of Jen Sicero's books?
Can you give me one of the titles?
Yeah, it's funny because I mentioned it and then I was like literally, now my mind is going blank. I'm looking.
Can you spell her last name?
Do something about badass. And she's got a yellow cover, a green cover, a purple cover.
Okay. Badass woman give the best advice. Becca Anderson. No.
No.
You are a badass. Jen Cicero. Here we go. Okay.
Yep. You were a badass at making money. You were a badass.
Okay. There we go. And so, You Are Badass is a self-help book for people who desperately want to improve their lives but don't want to get busted into it. Does that make you want to buy the book? No.
No.
It's terrible. This is an atrocious description, but let's look at the reviews. 4.7 out of 5. That is a staggeringly high number. But the real number, 27,240 reviews. Do you realize that 99% of people that read books don't leave reviews? That means that 27,240 people represents 1% of her readership. Her readership is massive. However much she's making, if she had a decent description, she would be making 3 times that. And that's one of the things about people who are successful is that, well, this is probably traditionally published. They don't, well, I don't know who Running Press Adult is. That might be her company. But
well, I will say that thing about her is I'm reading her How to Be a Badass at Making Money. And it's frustrating because she basically says, hey, I basically decided I was tired of being poor and couch surfing and going from place to place. And so I paid somebody a whole bunch of money to help me basically be my coach. And that's how I became successful. It's kind of what I got from it. And I'm looking and I was, okay, well, what happens if you're somebody that is tired of being poor, tired of being, couch surfing, tired of being homeless, but you don't have any money to pay some bigwig to get you there. And that's kind of the difference between her story and my story is that 3 years ago, I was homeless and literally sleeping on a mattress, mm-hmm. And, so I'm trying to build something with almost no money, period. And, it's hard. And, and that's the story that I'm writing is, okay, well, I decided that I'm going to give myself 10 years to make $10 million with a rubber chicken. Mm. I don't know how I'm going to make that money, but I'm going to write my story about the steps that I took and the journey that I had on that goal. So, when I talk about crypto and investing, that's part of why I care about that stuff is because sure. I research how to make money. That's important to me. So that's where I'd like to become an expert at is how to make money. That's
fantastic. The hardest thing about learning to the expert level is the dedication to put in the time. My chess playing, I'm in the 84th percentile, which 84th percentile is pretty good. But I've been at it for 20 years, and I haven't improved much in the last 15. I kind of got and plateaued, and I still work on it. I'm still trying to get better, but it's hard. Getting up to the 90th percentile. I don't know if I'll ever make that in my lifetime, but I did work hard enough to get 84th percentile. That means I can beat, out of 6 people, I can beat 5 of them, just off the street. And so it's really hard to become an expert at something. You have to have a passion for it. And like you said, you're not passionate about some things in the photography business, but there are things you are passionate about. You're passionate about the marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Then is there any reason why you couldn't write a nonfiction book about that? Because that would allow you to do the writing at the same time as you're doing the marketing that you need to do for that business. You may not want to go buy new lenses or go to conferences or any of that, but it would allow you to do the thing that makes you money now and serve a second master, which is the publishing. I mean, is that a terrible idea?
It's a brilliant idea.
Oh, there you go. I'm a clever monkey.
Is the problem. So for me, when I market, the business that wants to come my way is photography business, and the photography business takes away my time from the writing business. And so,
well, that's fine. I mean, that is absolutely fine. The thing is, if you write this book, and it can be a memoir, it's
my next book, actually.
It can be part memoir, but the reality is, if the photography business is coming your way and the business is growing and you're making money, then that answers the question from that woman, Jen is a Badass, who her second book in the series is published by Penguin Random House. And so, she decided she'd rather make 7.5 cents on the dollar than 70% by doing it herself. And that's fine. But the point is, she has sold a staggering amount of books. She sold more books in that first one than I have across all my books in my lifetime. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just going to check something.
She does coaching now as well. So you can actually book her to be a coach. So she's, you talked about public speaking and putting yourself out there as, a coach. And there's a lot of authors that are doing that. That's, I think, part of it. She's not getting all those book sales because she went with Penguin, though, because Penguin doesn't do her marketing, do they?
Well, no, the traditional publishers don't really do much in the way of marketing.
How do you think she's getting all of those book sales? Because the book is a great book, but it's not, why is it?
I don't know her story. I mean, it's not the description. It is the brand. She has built a brand, and let's find her YouTube. I'm guessing she has a YouTube. That's TEDx. Wow. When you search her name, okay, maybe this is her channel. No, that's Afford Anything. Here we go. There, she has her own channel. Okay, I just found her channel. 10,000 subscribers. That's not much at all. She has only had 290,000 views. She's probably made close to $600 from her YouTube thing. She is not using YouTube to its full benefit. But she does have some videos on there. Again, I don't know. What she does have is she has been on a ton of podcasts, and some of these podcasters. So
how do you get on people's podcasts? Because I don't know how to do that, so I just created my own.
Well, I can tell you how I've gotten on podcasts.
Okay.
I do 2 or 3 a week, or not 2 or 3 a week, 2 or 3 a month typically. And almost all of those are people that come to me. You came to me. The one that I mentioned earlier, where the gentleman 9 months ago, and I'm still getting clients from that podcast, he came to me. So because I have so many authors in these groups, and I worked very hard to build these groups, I put in a ton of effort, and I can tell that story in a moment. But because I did that, it's paying dividends with regards to me being able to be on podcasts a lot. Now, sometimes there's a podcast I want to be on, and instead of waiting until they find me, I will write them an email, and I use proper copywriting. And in one of them, it was a podcast that was sort of general discussion. It wasn't
What's proper copywriting? So sorry to interrupt. What's proper copywriting?
Proper copywriting is hooks, short paragraphs, linking hooks, open-ended statements, just that keep them engaged. There's all the tools that you use, that I use in the descriptions to get people from the start to the end. That's what I do in an email.
How do I learn everything that you know?
You read the book Mastering Amazon Descriptions by Brian D. Meeks, available on Amazon, both in ebook and print.
Perfect.
In fact, you have a picture of the book.
I do. I should have saved it. I should have saved it in the thingy. I usually do, but I got distracted by lighting today.
Anyway, so we were talking about how I got on a podcast where they didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I wrote them using proper copywriting. None of these giant paragraphs. They were all short, and they had little lines in between them, which makes it easier for people to read. And I told the story. I said, I had several book bubs. I said, book bub is the kingmaker. I had several book bubs where I gave away my book for free. And on 3 different occasions, my book had made it up to number 3 overall in the entire Amazon free store. Number 3. And my dream was to be number 1 in all of Amazon. But I know that takes 50,000 downloads in a single day to do that. And though I'd had those numbers, there'd always been a couple people that had just a little bit more. On this particular day, the 4th book in my Henry Wood Detective series, Edge of Understanding, the cover was great, and the book bub launched. 3 hours later, I'd given away 40,000 copies of the book, and it made number 1. 10 minutes after that, it was the worst day in my life.
Why?
I didn't tell them that in the email. They had to have me on the podcast.
Oh, perfect. Because then you have people who want to know. So I listen to this show every morning. It's called Morning Invest. And it's the person used to be on Fox News. His name is Carson Carter. Anyways, he's got brown hair. Okay. I'll send you a link. It's sad that I don't remember his name right now because I really want to talk to him.
Sure.
And you can actually pay on the YouTube chat, because if you're a member, you can pay. And I want to ask him. I want to interview him. Do you think that celebrity people would let me interview them if he's indeed a celebrity?
I think that if you wrote an email with proper copywriting, you could make it so that he would be unable to pass it up. That's the power of copywriting. May I tell you the story of the copywriting miracle?
Please do.
So my book, Mastering Amazon Descriptions, which I have mentioned several times today, I wrote this book, and it has 40 plus examples of descriptions, but I also have 10 examples of Facebook posts that I had written with proper copywriting to really help people understand what we're trying to do here. We're trying to hook the reader in an age of Facebook with scrolling and liking and loving and moving on and not really reading anything. Yeah. I'm able to write posts that are 400, 500, 1,500 words long on Facebook, and people will read them because of the power of copywriting. Well, on this particular day, 3 weeks after I had launched my book, Mastering Amazon Descriptions, a woman posted in my group of the same name on Facebook, and she said, last night I bought Brian's book, Mastering Amazon Descriptions, and today I started reading it. And I kept reading, and I kept reading. I was so enjoying it. And then all of a sudden I got to chapter 43, and I couldn't read anymore, ... And she's doing all this in proper copywriting. She's short lines, paragraph, short lines, ... I had to know, what is the link to the book in chapter 43? Well, that popped up. I saw when she posted it because I monitor my groups closely. And I said, just a second, I'll get it for you. So I had to go look at which book was in chapter 43. I looked it up. I went to Amazon. I got an affiliate link so I could make like an extra 18 cents. And I put it in the post, and I I hit send. And so sure enough, the book came up and she went and got it. A few minutes later, she comes back and she says, I want you to understand, I'm a 50-year-old woman who has in her entire life never owned, never considered buying, or ever even shopped for a cookbook. But when I read chapter 43 about the keto cookbook, I could not continue reading till I owned it. I sold a woman who was not in the market for a cookbook that had an aversion to cookbooks, a cookbook. I
need to read your book.
That's the power of copywriting. And so, yes, absolutely read it, and read it with an eye towards understanding what it is about the hooks that make you want to read the whole description. And I tell people, read all the description. It doesn't matter that you write horror and there's maybe only one of those, or I think there's 2 or 3. And admittedly, there's only 1 or 2 nonfiction in the book, which was a mistake on my part. I need to publish a revised edition because I now have a bunch of examples of nonfiction. But the point is, it doesn't matter.
Good
copywriting is copywriting, whether you're selling lawnmowers or books or trying to get yourself on a podcast.
Good sir. Can I ask you a favor? May I?
You may ask me a favor.
So can I read you the little description that I have currently for the back of my printed book?
Well,
hear what you have to say about it?
You can read me the first line. Is it more than 5 words?
Hold on, let me tell you. This book is for suicidal people who are looking for a reason to live.
Stop. This book is for suicidal people. I'm done reading at that point.
Yeah.
Are you on the edge of despair? ... Next line, ... and don't know where to turn?
Yeah.
Amber just might have a solution, or Amber's story will change your life, or something like that. And that's on 3 lines.
Okay.
And so it's I stopped reading halfway through that sentence.
Perfect. So you already know I'm not worried about it because I'm going to be hiring you to help me with that part.
There you go.
You're a part of my $10 million plan now.
Excellent.
Do you know this, right?
I know that. I'm adding you to the list. I'm putting
you. You volunteered to help me. You said, "Hey, I'm going to help you."
I did, and I will help you. I mean, I've been coaching you up. Of course, I gave you one piece of homework 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you didn't do it. So, that's I can only coach so hard. You have to do the work.
And your assignment was for me to get caught up on my photography orders.
Yes, which you told me before this show started you had not done.
No. So I am going to, as homework, do what I'm supposed to do so that I'm able to connect with you and move this ball forward, because I really need to hit that October deadline. And I do owe it to my clients because, like you said, they've paid me. And yes. That integrity and that honor, it's really important. And so I completely agree with you. And so you have no idea how painful it has been to not be able to pop up into your messenger and be like, okay, coach, I'm ready. But yes. I can't.
You can't, not till you get that done. But the point is, if you were to estimate the work you have left to do, to be done, measure that in hours.
It's 2 weeks, maybe a week.
But okay, you already failed. I'm going to ask the question again. Based on the work, measure that in hours, HOURS, as opposed to weeks, which is WEEKS. Data matters. Weeks doesn't tell me anything.
It'd be wonderful if I could add simple math, right? How many hours are in it,
Well,
so I have.
I mean, when you say a week, is that a week working 12 minutes a day?
Well, help me with the math with this. So I have 14 active clients currently who need their orders done. Each one of those people typically order 10 poses that need to be retouched. Each image I typically spend 30 minutes to an hour on. So 10 times, and you know what I mean?
You're talking 70 to 140 hours.
Yeah. How many weeks is that?
70 to 140. That could be 6 days. It could be a month.
Okay.
The point is, I once helped open a McDonald's in Williamsburg, Iowa. I worked 100-hour weeks for 3 months. So, weeks is not a great measure because you have 70 to 140 hours. Are you going to work 16-hour days? I don't know. How long can you work before you can't do it well? Can you work a 10-hour day tomorrow? Well, there you go. You're ticking off the boxes. And you know what? If you get into 10-hour habits, I bet that your data will skew closer to the 30-minute mark than it will to the hour mark with repetition. And so by doing nothing but that for however long it takes, you're going to find it will take less time. I just it's today, Thursday, Wednesday, I don't know what day it is, but on Monday, I tied a personal best of mine. My best ever single day is 7 descriptions in a day. And on that day, I wrote them over the course of the whole day. I would write one, and then I would think about the next one, and then I would write one, and then I'd eat lunch, and I'd think about another one. And it took the whole day. On this particular one, I wrote 6 of them for one client because it was in one series, and I turned off everything else. I didn't look at Facebook. I just focused. And I wrote 6 of them in 90 minutes because I was so in the zone. The first one took 20 or so, and then it was like 17, and the last few were a little under 15. But I mean, when I say 90 minutes, it was 89:57 because I timed myself with my timer on my phone because I was interested to see how quickly I could produce it. Now, I mean, that's a lot of money to make in an hour and a half, and I did it with the focus and tracking the results. And so now this is what I do every day. I get up and I figure out, usually there's 3 or 4 comments, or not comments, but messenger posts to me from clients. So the first thing I do in my day is I respond to them. Some of them will be live, and that can lead to a conversation, and that's fine. When I get caught up on the stuff that came in while I was asleep, then what's the next description? And I do it, and I get it done as quickly as possible. And so my focus is laser, it's a laser focus. And if you do that, you will find out that you're going to bang them out much more quickly because you will get good. So you've got a client with 10 images and they each take a half hour. Well, maybe the last one takes 20 because now you're in the groove. And so I cannot stress enough. I mean, you may not, the thought of 140 hours of work at 40 hours a week, I mean, that's, 3.5 weeks. But you don't have to work 40 hours. You could work 80. And again, if you're working that laser focused, it's not going to be 140. It's going to skew towards 70. And that's a big deal because that means 70, you can do 70 in a week. It's brutal, but you do 70 in a week, and 7 days from now, we're figuring out your writing plan and we're building a strategy to get you books as quickly as possible of the quality that is necessary with the quality cover art that fits in your budget, and still making time for finding new clients because you know what? Those new clients are going to be what pay for your editors. And so we can develop a balance, but there's just no way I can let you start until you're caught up because you need to be caught up so that we can say, okay, can you get a new client tomorrow and make $200, and what will it take? Because that's what you're going to, or $300, that's what we're going to spend on 99 designs to get a professional cover. Okay. And so there's, if you have that done, I can coach you up.
Perfect. I love it. I mean, you're exactly on the same page. Do you believe in serendipity?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
So I truly believe I'm on the right path, especially since the fact that you said you worked for Geico.
I did. I love Geico.
So
Geico was an awesome company. Geico is an awesome company.
I have a funny story to tell you. So my second book, you intuitively knew that I needed to write a marketing book. And the second book in the series that is the follow-up to the first is a marketing book. It is the story of, it's an all-timer story mixed with the marketing, and it ties into my journey to make $10 million. And part of the marketing, as me learning, trying to figure out, how does marketing work? I actually took a job at Geico working marketing. So I did the marketing side for Geico here locally for only about 4 months because their marketing consisted of me driving to car dealerships and handing out pens
Yeah, that's not as exciting as some of the marketing they do.
But it was easy. It was so easy. The money was phenomenal. I could not believe how easy it was to make money just driving around handing out pens.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting, but I got enough content for the book that I needed for that. So
perfect.
The universe is lining up for all the right ways, and I'm giddy excited about it.
I am getting excited about the alignments that are going on in my life as well. I have a lot of things happening. There's much more than we've talked about today, and some of it I can't talk about, but some partnerships that I'm working on, and it feels good. After a year and a half of sloth, I'm getting my steps in every day. I got 17,000, give or take, yesterday, and I will probably go shoot baskets after this. And it's working all day at something you love is a different kind of high. It's amazing. And, my revenue is going through the roof. So I'm making money, and I can follow the crypto and do that stuff because of it. But ultimately, what's awesome is how I wake up feeling every day. I wake up and I crawl out of bed, and my eyes aren't awake yet, and I'm just squinting, and I'm doing this, and it's bright because of the screen. But sometimes I'm reading the screen like this because it's too bright. But I mean, that's how quickly I'm going to Facebook and trying to read the very first post, because I can't wait the minute or two it takes for the eyes to adjust and it not be painful. I'm that excited about getting my day started, and I wish my ears were at the same level, because I'm constantly futzing with the glasses when I'm on a podcast. That bothers me. But
have you ever worn contacts, or have you always been a glasses?
No, these are just readers.
Readers. I don't need readers yet, but my optometrist tells me I'm of the age that should be coming, and to expect it. I
have this other thing that is interesting in that I don't know if you've seen these advertised, the glasses with holes on them. They have pinholes in them, and so I can see the screen right now. I can see it absolutely, and I don't need my readers. If I take this off, Amber and Brian is blurry. And I cannot. You're in the show that I can barely read. The line behind, everyone can see and hear you. It's so blurry. Yeah. I put this on with these holes, and it's crystal sharp. Now the theory is, if you wear these enough, and I wear them every day, sometimes when I'm working, your eye, the way it exercises the focus, is supposed to correct your vision. I've had them for several weeks, and I've not noticed it has corrected my vision. But it is nice to be able to work on the screen without the readers, because I know I'm getting less glare in my eyes, so there's less fatigue, and I have crystal clear vision because of these weird little holes. It's one of those things. I bought it at a health food store, and there's these infomercials that sell them, and they look like absolute rubbish, but it was $10, and I wanted to try them, and so I do. I use these nearly every day while I'm doing my work, in the hopes that one day it will fix my vision. I don't believe that it will. I think this does what it does, makes it so I can read without fuzziness, but that's as good as I'm going to get. Of course, I may be wrong. Maybe in 6 months I won't need the readers.
Well, you look kind of like a bee.
I do look a little like a bee.
Yeah, and bees are bumbly.
Bees are bumbly.
You look like a bumbly bee.
They very are. They very much are.
I'm truly grateful for your time today, good sir.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. We had fun. As I said before the show started, love your place there. That apartment is so cool. So you've got a great background. We're going to coach you up. You just need to get the client work done.
Yeah, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. So I think we're at the end of today. I think
so. Send me a message tomorrow and tell me how many hours you worked on stuff tonight relating to your client stuff.
I will.
If I don't get a message tomorrow, I'm going to send you a picture of me looking very disappointed in you.
So you have to understand, I have chosen you to be my person to help get me to where I need to be. And so now the way that I see it is, I'm representing your brand, which means I need to do what I'm supposed to do so that you can succeed at what you're really great at. So
we're on the same page. Amber, we're going to make great things happen.
Perfect. I'm grateful.
If anybody listening is interested, because we didn't really mention how to find me. I'm on Facebook, and I'm wearing this hat, and I'm drinking a Moscow Mule. Brian Meeks, if you're interested in a description, just reach out to me on Facebook, send me a DM. You could probably leave a comment on this post or on this video, and if I don't see it, maybe Amber will let me know. But reach out to me, and I'd be happy to write your description, or any copywriting for that matter.
I absolutely love that. And I'll make sure to include links to find you, to make sure that people are able to find you. I will also, if you have anything that you want the public to know about, or my group, etc., please reach out to me and say, hey, Amber, I've got this thing going on and I want people to know. Because
yeah, I'm in 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to have a course on copywriting. So that will be something that I'd like to talk about.
I think that sounds perfect. So I will keep in touch, and I'm here to help you succeed as well. So
I appreciate
it's definitely reciprocal. So thank you so much. I'm extremely grateful. I'm going to end this broadcast. Hold on, Here I go. Whoa,
okay.
Bam. Bam.